Hello, I'm Callie Yanta. Welcome to Did You Know? The question today is this: did you know that there is a safe, healthy alternative to artificial contraception and infertility care? Now, most people refer to it as natural family planning, but we're going to talk today about a very specific method called the Creighton Model Fertility Care System. But before we get into the nuts and bolts of this, let's hear from a woman who's experienced both.
Well, I was on the pill for 6 years. And I have a myriad of symptoms, including intense, vomit-causing migraines and hair loss and things like that. Things that, are considered to be normal side effects to the pill. I decided to try something different. My husband and I decided to look into the Creighton model. I was a little hesitant at first. My husband is the oldest of 10, and I was like, not doing that, no way. I'm, not going to be relegated to a life of uncontrollable children that I'm coming for. I can honestly say, after having been on the pill for 6 years and doing this more natural form with the Creighton model, I am significantly healthier. My migraines have basically gone away. It's a healthy choice for me. I wasn't pumping my body full of hormones. There were no bad side effects. It's something that we've successfully avoided pregnancy at this stage in our relationship so far. The pill never gives you more of an understanding of who you are. In fact, it mutes it. And this is something that I've discovered so much more about my health, about my body, and it's also a way that I can share and make a greater partnership with my husband.
How about that for a subject to tackle? I'm here with two wonderful women who are joining me to address this issue of the Creighton Model Fertility Care System, practitioners of this system. Jennifer Mack and Bridget Barrett, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bridget, I was going to ask you right off the bat here, if you could just sort of give people the general biology, the background of what this addresses, because it's really a foreign concept to most people.
Sure. Well, the Creighton Model Fertility Care System really is for everyone. Couples can use it to both achieve and avoid pregnancy, and then women and couples can use this method to learn about different reproductive health problems that could be occurring within a woman's body. So it gives a woman the confidence that she has knowledge in her own menstrual cycle and how it's working, and they're able to use that knowledge to be a self-advocate for themselves to their doctor, to be able to identify different issues that they may need to discuss and receive treatment for. So it just empowers women and couples to have such a great understanding of the naturally occurring cycle in their own body.
I will admit right here that I used to be on the pill myself, much like the woman we just heard from, and experienced some of the same symptoms and side effects that she did. And now my husband and I have been practicing natural family planning, not the Creighton model specifically, but ever since we got engaged, we started taking classes to learn the natural approach so that we wouldn't be, pumping me full of those hormones and everything, and other reasons we'll get to later. But what I'd like you to address, one of you, whoever wants to handle this, let's talk about the pill, because I believe, I don't know the statistics, but I believe it's the most common form of birth control that's used. Can you talk about what that actually does? The woman we heard from talked a little bit about some of the side effects she experienced, but maybe Jennifer, you could handle that and just sort of give people the facts, some of which people are never told by their doctors.
Sure. Well, 80% of women are on the pill at some point during their reproductive life, so it is a huge percentage of women who have experience with the pill. And there's 3 basic mechanisms on how the birth control pill works. First of all, it is supposed to impede ovulation, so keep the egg from being released. And secondly, it thickens the cervical mucus to prevent sperm from reaching the egg. And then the third thing it does, and most women aren't aware of this, is that it actually irritates the lining of the woman's uterus, so that if a pregnancy is achieved, it's very difficult for implantation to occur. And we have a lot of clients who, once they find out that this is the way the pill is working for them, are really uncomfortable with that, not to mention the side effects.
Right.
So women are at a higher risk for developing breast cancer. It's actually a class 1 carcinogen, and they're at a much higher risk for just flatline hormones, acne problems, mood swings, bloating, all kinds of things.
Well, the part that got me when later after I had stopped taking the pill myself, I learned about what you had just shared about the thinning and the irritation of the lining of the uterus, which ultimately means an early unknown abortion that would take place because conception has taken place in some cases, not all cases, but the woman would never know.
Right.
And so it's one of those things that we won't know until our judgment day, I guess.
Right.
if that happened because we chose to take the easy route. I have to admit, the pill is very tempting. It's one thing, you pop it, every day for the month, and it seems like a simple thing to be able to have freedom. But let's talk about this Creighton model fertility care system and how that truly gives a woman and a man much more freedom.
Right. Well, it gets right down to basic biology, and unfortunately, these basic things about biology aren't taught in our schools nowadays. So a lot of people are completely unaware of how the reproductive system works for a woman. And one of the things that we teach right away to couples is that in your fertility with a male and a female, it requires sperm and eggs. But the third thing that's required to be fertile is this cervical mucus. And so that's really the basic, we call it a biological marker that we teach women to identify, and then once they're able to determine at what points of the month they have cervical mucus, then we go from there to help them look at charting, and our classes, teach a very thorough way that's so scientific. The science behind this method is so sound that, it's not just a method we made up together. I mean, this is something that has medical textbooks behind it.
Yes, but I have to stop you because folks at home, don't turn the channel because you're going, oh, that's disgusting. What are you talking about, cervical mucus? I don't want to hear about that, click. Don't do that because this is fascinating. When my husband and I first got married, we were older, in our 30s already, mid-30s, and we thought, whoa, we better get started. And I was amazed at how accurate that is when you actually just take the effort to learn this and identify what peak mucus is. It's so simple and it's really not disgusting. You don't have to do anything nasty, or it's so simple. When a woman uses the bathroom during the day, you just check it and see with your toilet paper, and it's very, very simple to see, and it's obvious. It's extremely obvious. So if you want to get pregnant, that's the time. If you don't, you abstain. It's really, really simple. We have a chart, the wheel, can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
That we can show folks about a simple cycle.
Yeah, this is an example of what a woman's cycle looks like as she goes through the month. And a woman obviously starts off with menstruation, and after she finishes with her period, she will have dry days where she does not see the presence of any cervical mucus. But after several dry days, she'll start noticing mucus. And again, she notices like this, as you said, when she goes to the bathroom and just wipes. It's nothing difficult. And the mucus will last for an average of 6 days, but every woman is different. And the mucus changes, as it gets more fertile as she approaches the day when she's going to be ovulating. And after a woman ovulates, there's this dramatic change, which is amazing, and the mucus just stops. It changes very quickly, and then the rest of her cycle is then dry again. So we like to use colors with the Creighton model, so that's why you'll see the red days when a woman is bleeding, and then green days when she's dry, and then we use white for days when she sees mucus. So this is a basic example of times of the cycle when a woman is fertile or not fertile. You'll see that there's a count of 3 extra days after the day she ovulates when she's still fertile, and that guarantees that the egg is no longer available by the end of the 3rd day. So this, if you look at it in this circle, you can see how simple it is to figure out, and it's amazing to us how couples, once they have a couple sessions with us, their confidence and it just skyrockets, and they're like, wow, this is something we can do.
Right, right, and it is very basic. The colors, Jennifer, why use the colors? This is not, what we just saw is not the actual chart that a woman uses, that's just the kind of a good visual, but on the actual chart, you do use colors, and for what reason?
We do. We use the same colors because it makes it really easy to see. And Bridget was mentioning how a lot of women aren't taught about this in school. Well, unfortunately, doctors aren't really taught about this in medical school. And we do have doctors in the area who have been trained, but if you don't happen to have one of those doctors, if you have a very easy to identify chart, it makes it a lot easier to bring your chart in and show it to your doctor and say, look, this is what's going on. And they'll understand it too. So women and men gain confidence quickly, but then it's also translatable if you're talking to someone who really doesn't know too much about it.
Right, and I know that the creator of this system, this is designed not just for use in the United States, but throughout the world, including in third world countries where perhaps literacy is very low. So again, the simplicity of the colors makes it user-friendly?
Right.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about how this affects women who, let's say you have a woman who isn't regular in her cycles. And so she's starting this and realizing, wow, I don't have these normal patterns like most people do. What do you do then?
Well, most women who have cycle irregularities know that already coming in. And if anything, they're worried, I'll never be able to figure out anything because my cycles aren't always the same. And they're often surprised by how quickly they are able to identify the main times that are going on during the cycle. But one of the very nice things that the system is able to do, one of the aspects of the Creighton model is called NAPR technology, and that's the medical treatment that goes along with it. So when a woman starts identifying possible underlying health issues, then NAPR technology goes to the root cause of those, as opposed to if a woman has extra bleeding, for instance, during her cycle, if she goes into her doctor, most likely her doctor will say, well, let's put you on the pill. And that doesn't actually treat anything. What it does is shuts everything down. A woman isn't actually cycling when she's on the pill, which a lot of women don't know either. So if you've been on the pill for 5, 10, 15 years, that means you haven't been cycling for 5, 10, 15 years. And there isn't anything that you're learning about your fertility or your body. But with this, there's a lot that can be learned. And the doctors actually can tell, looking at the chart, if there's a more serious thing going on, what kind of testing should happen.
Right. Well, this would be a great opportunity to hear from some women who share some specific problems that they discovered really by turning to this system. Let's take a look at that now.
I had been experiencing insomnia and a great amount of fatigue. I was having joint pain, and I was definitely suffering from PMS. I had gone to see other doctors to try to relieve these symptoms, and I didn't want to go on birth control pills or take steroids for my joint pain, nor did I want to go on antidepressant drugs, and so there was really nothing that these doctors could offer me. I had met a Creighton practitioner, a friend of mine, and she told me about Creighton and what she thought it could do for me. So I began charting, and after I had charted for about 60 days, my practitioner sent the information into Pope Paul VI Institute. The information did reveal a fairly serious hormonal imbalance, and they offered a treatment for that. Since having begun treatment, I feel great. I'm sleeping at night, my joint pain has subsided substantially, and the PMS has also been resolved. It's unique, it's specialized, and it's made to fit each woman's needs.
My husband and I try to be healthy in what we eat and what we do. We worry about pesticides in our food, we eat organic, we worry about BPA and plastics. And the same goes for our family planning. Your body manufactures hormones and they can be reproduced, but the hormones in almost all of the birth control pills are fake versions of them. They are foreign to your body. They have been proven to be cancer causing. I think they're class 5 carcinogens. If you read the side effects for a birth control pill, it's longer than most of the medicines you would take for really severe illnesses. I don't view my fertility as a disease. It's not a problem. It's an integral part of who I am as a woman. And the Creighton method in particular has really helped with that. It's been the natural answer for us because it's not suppressive or destructive. I have PCOS, so my fertility cycles are irregular and hard to predict. And for a long time I felt really clueless and frustrated. I thought that the only option was harsh, unnatural drugs that would suppress the problem but not actually address the underlying issue. The Creighton method instead has allowed me to really tune in to what my body is saying. Holistic, natural, healthy, effective options that do empower you.
Our story kind of started with the birth of our second child. I was having lots of ups and downs, probably what you would call postpartum depression, anxiety, depression, panic attacks.
We needed to deal with what was going on, but it was frustrating because we couldn't quite figure it out, and the people who were supposed to be helping us didn't seem to have the right answers.
They put me on vitamins. They sent me to therapy. They next put me on an antidepressant. I really became like a zombie.
In trying to treat those surface level symptoms, first of all, they weren't even being treated, they were really just being masked. Then it was causing secondary side effects, and that the whole time there was a root issue that we didn't even know about that wasn't being dealt with.
And I just felt like I was gonna have to deal with that for the rest of my life.
Eventually, when we found out about Creighton, we have somebody who is really concerned with her whole well-being and not just like giving another prescription to deal with some kind of surface level problem.
Immediately after I had been charting with the Creighton model for even just a month, the Creighton practitioner was able to look at what was going on and really tell me right away what she thought was the issue. It was so wonderful to know that it wasn't just me, that it was actually a progesterone problem and a thyroid issue. We were able to do blood work, and within a couple of months, I felt like a new person.
She was talking about running marathons all of a sudden. And
I'm not a runner.
And it wasn't because she was on something, it was because we figured out what was going on in her body and making some adjustments, bringing her back to a very natural level. You want to see the kids?
Fabulous examples. I really, really enjoy hearing from all of those folks because it just shows that there's so much more to this, so many more benefits to practicing this as opposed to just popping that pill or, you know, having an IUD implanted. Let's talk about some of those trouble things that some of these people experience, though. You can detect infertility problems, miscarriage, low progesterone. I know you have a chart that shows some examples of this. Can you refer to some more examples of this?
Sure. We will have women come sometimes and think that their cycle might be too complicated to use this method. Mm-hmm. And I am always telling them, this is perfect for you if you have a complicated cycle, because we can help you determine why your cycle seems complicated and pair you up with a naprotechnology physician who can help to figure out the underlying cause with your charting. So when a woman is charting and she's noticing different patterns in her chart, and we help the couple identify those patterns, unusual bleeding and just things that aren't quite normal. And these are things that unless you were charting, you would probably never pick up on them or notice. So it's that charting every day that is so essential to bring these to your attention. So for example, on this chart, the first cycle there, it only has 1 day of mucus every cycle. And that was a couple that was experiencing infertility. And the issue from the chart is bringing up the question, why is she only having 1 day of mucus? Normally, a healthy cycle has more mucus present that would help you conceive. So she would need to talk to a physician and do some testing to determine, how can we increase her cervical mucus production.
Okay.
And in the second cycle, this woman was having recurrent miscarriages. Very sad for a couple. And looking at her chart, it appears that the amount of time after she ovulates before she gets her next period is too short. And this can indicate a low hormone of progesterone that's too low to support a pregnancy. So this can be very enlightening to a couple to, see, oh, look here's kind of the root problem. Let's talk to our doctor and find out an answer.
It's wonderful.
So other signs of low progesterone, which puts you at a risk for miscarriage, PMS, different hormone imbalances, are having lots of spotting at the end of your cycle, as you can see in that third line there. And the last cycle has very abnormal bleeding all throughout the cycle, and that could be attributed to a various number of different problems. But so any abnormal bleeding like that, we would refer a woman to a naprotechnology medical consultant doctor.
And so you are both practitioners. What does that mean specifically? Some people might assume that means you're RNs or something, but that's not the case, right?
Right. So in common parlance, we'd be called teachers. We teach the couples how to identify what's going on during the cycle, how to chart it, how to use the system if their intention is to achieve pregnancy or to avoid pregnancy. And then, like Bridget was saying, to identify if there's unusual things going on that they might want to consider for medical treatment. So to become a practitioner, it's pretty intensive. It's a 13-month internship, and we sort of referred to it as Creighton Model Boot Camp. But at the end, you come out and you're really proficient in what you're doing, which is extremely important. These are big issues that couples are dealing with, and you want to know that you're dealing with real science, real expertise, and you're getting the one-on-one attention that you need. When we meet with couples, the first time we meet, there's an introductory session, and that's in a group. But after that, all of our meetings are individual with the couples. And that's really, as Bridget was mentioning before, why couples are able to get really confident very quickly. They don't feel stupid asking a question because nobody's going to hear except for us, and we know that no question is stupid. And also we can identify maybe where there's some gaps in understanding through our discussions with them that we would miss in a more group setting. So our training is very intensive, and we try to be very present for the couples, and we try to make it very easy on them. So we don't put them through Creighton Model Boot Camp.
Even though you had to go through. I think it's wonderful. There are also, though, besides the problem cycles that you just showed, there are natural changes in a woman's cycles when she's breastfeeding, perhaps, or getting into the menopause years. I would assume this is helpful during those times as well.
Right, and I think that for me has been one of the most rewarding parts of being a practitioner is the relationship that you build with a woman, because the idea is that you don't take our class and then never talk to us again. We are your practitioner for the rest of your reproductive life. So this is one method that you can learn it, and then it doesn't change how it works whether you're breastfeeding, entering menopause, or going through any other phase. So you learn the method and then work with your practitioner throughout those different phases. So it's always fun for us to get calls from our clients, and they'll say, oh, I just had my first baby now. I need some help navigating through the breastfeeding cycles, and we get to meet with them again. And so you really get to build up a great relationship with couples. And it's the way the system was designed to have that ongoing relationship, I think, was just very genius.
Excellent, yeah. And we want to talk a little bit, there's one more clip if we have time to show it, about how this impacts the couple and especially the man, because this is not just the woman dealing with this, the man gets involved as well. Like you said, the couple comes together often to these meetings, and so let's hear from one guy who talks about his experience.
I'm able to be confident in using the Creighton method because it is unique, because it is tailored to understand specifically, well, in our case, what my wife's body is doing, how her cycle works for her. A lot of guys feel like this whole conversation about fertility, about what's actually happening with a woman's body, whoa man, that's girl stuff. We don't talk about that. We don't understand that. I do have that understanding. And that is enormously intimate for us. This is what we share as husband and wife. And it's not something I'm left out of. It is not an average, it's not a template, it's not something I need to be worried about. Can we really rely on this? I know that it is accurate, because I know that it is about her, how she works. And so we're completely confident in using the method, and we have been able to avoid pregnancy with it. And I've never felt any concern about that.
You know, some people, some of the other practitioners, doctors out there may refer to the old rhythm method, the old calendar rhythm method, which hasn't been practiced for 40 plus years, you know, and the assumption with a lot of people is, oh my gosh, this means you're going to be doing basically nothing and you're going to have 15 kids. And that's not the case, and it brings the couple together. I can speak from experience about that myself. My husband and I have been doing this as well, and you as practitioners practice this in your own personal lives. How has it impacted your relationships with your husbands?
It's been really good. I think one of the reasons that there's a really low divorce rate among couples who use NFP is that you have to be real with each other. You have to be honest and accepting of everything about the other person, including their fertility. And so you don't act like, well, I'm interested in all of you except that part, because that's a pretty big part of a couple's marriage. And to be able to discuss that and to be aware of it together. And it's amazing. Some of the husbands and the clients that I've had have just been astounded. Sometimes they're more excited even than the women, like, oh, I can't believe I actually know. And I told her, in 3 days you're gonna get your period, and I was right. So it's good for building those kind of bonds too, that the husband doesn't feel left out or like he isn't important.
Mm-hmm. I know people at home hopefully are wanting to learn more. I hope you are, because it's worth looking into. Let's put up the contact information for you to check this out. The Twin Cities Fertility Care Center is located in St. Paul at St. Joseph's Hospital, but you teach throughout the metro area at many different locations. So go to their website, tcnfp.org, for more information, or call the phone number 651-232-3088. It is definitely worth looking into. And I just want to thank you both so much for being here and for sharing this information, which is vital right now in our culture, in our world today. So thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And thank you, everyone at home, for watching Did You Know?